Hey guys. Alright, Ingormus here. Today I have the Act 2 guided playthrough guide for you guys. I'm going to start off by showing off some of the mechanics for animation canceling in general throughout Act 2 as you get more movement options like Leap Slam. Something to note is that Leap Slam does have some landing lag involved with it where you're unable to move during the landing there. One of the ways around that is you can tap Ray Shield at towards the end of your leap slam, and you can skip that landing lag, like so. You see how I was able to move right away. So do it without the Ray Shield cancel. You see how long it takes me to land and move with the Ray Shield, and just walk right away. You can buffer it by tapping it towards the last bit of your leap slam, and then just have your Ray Shield for a little bit. And then when you're casting shield walls, what you do with your your shockwave totem is you have urgent totems in, and then you buffer your shield wall, so it blows up right away on the first cast. And you do this whenever you want to cast like multiple shield walls. You use your totem. When you only want to break one on the go, you can like aim it correctly with your mouse, and then just shield wall through it. So you can keep on moving through when you only want to cast one, or you can use like your war cries that you have available to you. So your fortifying cry when you get in Act 3 will be mostly for single target. You won't have this skill in Act 2. And then if you get an extra like level 7 or level 8 gem, you can put you'd ideally want it on freezing mark, just so you can have a low level mark for the requirement, so you can put mark for death on it, which in the next patch will be a strength gem for armor break for like 20% more damage on monsters, because it'll be your only source of them having increased damage taken for having their armor broken. Alright. Alright, so we're just going to continue along this character that we had for Act 1. When you get to town here, you can just run straight through, you don't have to talk to anybody. You've already vendored. I mean, if you wanted to, you could talk to Zarka here, but, you know, you can like alt-click on her, double-check for anything useful. Yeah. Resistance rings, always pretty useful, so I'm gonna pick this up here and just keep it to the side. But, no, I am a little bit wealthier on this run, so I can pick up a Jade Amulet just fine. Maybe I get something decent, 18% increased armor is pretty good. Plus 1 projectile is pretty unlucky. Maybe I'd sell that. Still playing the same build, so it's just rolling slam into Bone Shatter early on. Holy. Walker. Alright, so Vastiri Outskirts, if you don't know the zone that well, you can just run along the wall and hug one of the walls, because you're looking for a good source of macaroni. I can show you in a little bit. But there's like good macaroni entrances that are very wide and girthy, and then there's bad macaroni which are thin and tiny. But in this case, when you're more familiar with this layout, you just kind of run through the middle if you know it, straight down if you know what you're looking for. I prefer one side to the other. And from here on out, I'm just going to continue to hug this wall over here. Just to be careful of any monsters that have like wake up times, they have like a little moment in vulnerability to bone shatter that you have to worry about. So this is a case of bad macaroni right here. It's tiny, we don't like that. We like it to be big. So down here, this is a case of good macaroni. And see the girthiness is quite significant just on the mini-map. No. But I usually have perfect strike on shield. We're still looking for boots. You get 15% boots, so it's still worth IDing boots, but otherwise we're just gonna keep on running through here. We're already level 15, so we've hit a significant breakdown. Something to note is that this pack up here, if you're like really close to level up, this pack is resettable. So you note how I'm at 85% experience here. I could just keep resetting this pack for some XP to hit the last bit of my level up. So yeah, about 7% of level, so I should do this like once or twice more, I could get it. Looks like it'll be one more. I could share my loot filter, it's just not very good right now, is what I would say. So, if you're ever like really close to level up there, you can just grab it that way. In this case, we're only getting a strength node, so I wouldn't do that in a normal situation, but just show it off. So something that's very important on this boss is that if you don't hug this corner right here very tightly when you run up, this boss is going to charge you and he's going to play around the cliffs. And around the cliffs, there's all those projectiles fighting, so you don't want to do that. You want to just like hug this corner very tight with your sprint, or like any other sort of like movement ability in the past, like shield charge was enough, just shield charging at the corner. You can just do it in with a sprint, even wearing a chest piece. And you get to like around here, and you just want to make sure that the boss doesn't like end up charging in at you. Like this. So now we're good. Frost Bomb, Infernal Cry, stand behind. And just perfect strike them down. Just like that. Alright, go Berserker, pick up a level 5 skill gem. And then we just make sure you identify all at him. Ooh, +2 levels is pretty great. You're going to be wanting that. And in the case, anytime you start having like a one-handed mace in your offhand that has like a +1 to skill gems, you just want to make sure you toggle on Perfect Strike, in Rolling Slam, and Bone Shatter that you're only using them with weapon set 1, where your two-handed weapon is. This is a pretty good one-hander. Right, so when you get to town, there's a couple things we're looking for. I have a Regex available. I don't use a very specific one for early on into like into Act 2. I don't usually buy a lot of gear early on. Like you could like skim it a little bit. Like this is a really good armor, so I'm gonna pick this up over this piece. Just having the extra armor and fire resistance is pretty good at this stage of the game. And then I manually check for a studded Great Club, because those can be really good at this stage, especially if it hit IPD and attack speed. And in this sort of case, like the damage on this weapon is so high that I'm just going to keep on my Forge Maul just in case this ends up being too much damage for the Rolling Slams early on in Act 2. But other than that, you know, you're checking for the movement speed boots, you're checking for like plus to level of melee gems on maces or gloves, or God, you know, in theory an amulet, but that's not very likely. I have a pretty good greater flask, but even so, like increased amount recovered, it's not better than a typical grand flask, so it's worth picking it up. Alright, so you gotta talk to Sekima Sala, you gotta talk to her once, move her to the map, talk to her again over here. And then we go to Halani Gates for reinforcing some RP, but we can skip most of it. We don't have to do all of it. So that ring, put on a resistance ring, just because it's really nice to have high resistances. So the second the talk to Sala box pops up over here, whenever you cross that line, right around here, you don't actually have to talk to her. We don't talk to women, we're speedrunners, so we go back to town.
I think I'll wait for a fight first.
And head straight on down to the Mawdun Quarry. Something that you can do during the entirety of Act 2 if you're trying to speedrun or grow faster is you can move the town first and then do your vendors. And if you do it fast enough, you don't lose any time at all for the town moving. Usually gonna lose like a second or two though. So something to note about Mawdun Quarry is that this is a really great spot for getting lots of whetstones in armor scraps. The monsters in this zone are like highly slighted to drop both of those types of currencies compared to others. I believe it's the Ferrodin monsters, but I could be corrected on that. Like the Ferrodin like monster types, the ones slighted. But in this zone there is one guarantee drop. It's an artificer orb from a chest, and to get it you just like hug the wall in the zone. Like towards the wall of the zone, and then there's going to be bridges, and you're looking for the bridge with a blue light afterwards, the blue light of a checkpoint. Because the zone is like 2 big boxes and a narrow passage between the 2 boxes. And one, like to the box, from box 1 to box 2 there's a narrow passage, and then from box 2 to the exit there's another narrow passage. That can be a little bit mazy. Picking up quality flasks in general is a very good idea, because it allows you to get baubles later on. So we're just going to continue to check the edge of this arena. Unlike a speedrun, you know, you see it or you don't see it, it is what it is. But in this sort of case, on a league start, you want to get your extra artificer orbs for early on in the interludes where you start socketing greater orbs. Greater runes that you get from the merchant. You just want to have a stockpile ahead of time. I mean, like to use it on our weapons and whatnot. Yeah, you won't be able to come back to the zone later. For like at least the like blacksmiths and the armor scraps.
These Ferrodin play a dangerous game. Gruesome creature.
Okay, we're gonna switch back to the forge wall because we're not consistently priming. And because we already have a +2 to melee skill gems on our one-handed mace for shield wall, we're not gonna pick up an idea one-handed maces anymore, but typically you would be. Just be looking for +2 to melee, high attack speed rolls, that sort of thing. Of course, every time you see a rare, you want to pick it up, because rares are the holders, the majority of the good loot in campaign. Alright, we're just going to go over here, check for the bridge, and you see that blue glow? So we already know that this one has our artificial orb over here. And just pick that up and head on out. We already have pretty good gloves, so I'm not going to go IDing blue gloves ever on a character like this, with gloves like this. But if you didn't have anything on your gloves, you could be looking for like life rolls, resistance rolls, damage rolls, you know, plus the melee skills is pretty good for later too. Jewelry in general, even if it's white, is worth to pick up to sell later on.
Hammer and anvil.
So there's something cool you can do in Mawdun Mine as you enter when you're on the elevator. If you want to skip the rest of the animation, I can show you as we come in. So notice how there's a blacksmith's strong box right here. There's typically like a very decently sized pack up here. If you respawn at checkpoint right now, the second you enter the zone, you're gonna enter in at the bottom of the elevator. So if you are in like a region with a fast loading screen, this is like faster than just riding through the rest of the elevator. Your strong box will stay, If this happened to be like a magic strongbox, it would stay, like the mods of it would reroll like typical, but this pack that was here disappeared. Because it is a blacksmith, I'm just gonna add it up real quick. Extra magic monsters is actually pretty sick. I'm just gonna clear it up. I can probably switch back to the studded now, that I already have. I might not be able to. It's a balancing act. The 51 IPD roll with quality is pretty high. But in this zone, the boss arena, like we're always spawned along like the southern edge, whether it's the southern left to southern right, bottom right. But the boss arena is already always in the northern section of the zone, so you're always going to travel up as you go through the zone. And it's right here. So in this layout we had like a far left corner like spawn. Now you could spawn anywhere around here. So Arcana could be like the western, it could be anywhere along the north. Usually it's in the, like the northernmost position of the zone anyways. Okay, levels on like, we're gonna use one of our like level 5 skill gems on Shockwave Totem for later on, just so you don't forget about it later on. I have enough. And then it's really nice to be level 18 before this fight, because you get beef. These 2 points together, you know, this is 50 life right here, plus 16, you know, 66 life for 2 points is pretty nice. So this boss, when she gets knocked down, her hitbox is not exactly where she is like visually. When a boss like this small, in this case, gets knocked down, her hitbox is exactly where she was standing right before she got staggered and heavy stunned, and she'll like snap back to that position when she gets unstunned. But you know, all we're gonna do is we're gonna place a frost bomb ahead of time, and when she says Quarry, you can start charging your perfect strike to get one off right away. And you just want to be sure that you don't actually stand in her flamethrower because it does do a decent chunk of damage. I like stunning her. She likes to move around a lot. And you don't want to tank that early on, especially without like a lot of fire resistance. It can kill you pretty easily. So while she's dropping our loot, we talk to Risu, place our portal, and we just pick up this rare item and dip. Right, same deal when we come to town. Blender all our rares. We're gonna keep the forge. We should be fine without keeping the forge mall. I'll suffer it if it happens. And then we got 15% movement sea boots, so it doesn't matter what the suffix is, we're taking it. It's just nice that it happened to be a 1-to-1 upgrade in this case. Double checking for tower shields, you know, leech can't show up yet as a modifier, so most of the modifiers we're looking for are like 22 up, so we're not really looking for much. And you had like, if you were like saving your salvages, you would do this right away. You can also put your like level 6 gem into perfect strike because nothing else can come from that level. So after you free Risu, you gotta talk to Risu, and then Helani Gates becomes Traitor's Passage. You don't have to talk to Sakamos there. Sell that little amulet. So you don't have to worry about it right away, but by the time you get to shield charge, you will need a better mana flask than just a medium. So we're gonna pick up a grand mana flask here right away. There's like a set number of Traitor's Passages layouts, but I wouldn't worry too much about it. Anytime you see like notes on the wall, that's the way like to Balbala's fight, and we don't really want to do Balbala. She's not a required boss, and she only grants you like a level 22, I believe, trial. And we want a higher level trial, and we can get one from Deshar instead. So we're just gonna go for that instead. It's usually a pretty miserable fight on melee anyways. She's a monster that moves around a lot. Like a unique monster, moves around all around. Highly mobile with her attacks. And on top of that, she's evasive. So she can stand still, tank your hit, and then just evade it. So up here, when we get to the notes on the wall, because it's a later Six Sisters layout. So to the right, this would be where Balbala is. We don't want to go that way. We want to go to where the exit is. Just to the left up here. And typically it can spawn within like a decent amount of variance, oftentimes in the middle or like along the edge here. So it's like a little bit of luck whether you run into it right away. It has some like minor variance. Just try to be lucky. I have a feeling it's like ran that one spot I didn't go to. Right over here. Yep, it's right here. Alright, so something to note in Hani Gates at the start is that Asala here, I wouldn't even bother summoning her until all these monsters are dead. And you don't actually have to kill all these statues, but if you don't kill all these statues, you're gonna have to do what you're gonna have to reset at a checkpoint up ahead, because Asala's not gonna follow us. She's gonna just fight those statues off screen for the rest of the layout. Just making our way over to Crushing Verdict after we got beef. So statues in this zone are pretty bad. They don't give a lot of XP by themselves, but the Ferritin monsters do, and especially like the blue packs are really good to pick up as you run through the zone. But statues by themselves give like significantly less XP than other monster types. So when we get to this checkpoint, notice how Asala's over there. When we respawn at checkpoint here, Asala's going to spawn back on top of us. So Limb the Impaler is guaranteed drops you a rare weapon, like a rare martial weapon, so it's good to pick her up. Sometimes you can get a good weapon out of her if you're like still suffering and you're like behind on your weapon. Good HP on Helm is way better than just this, and it's the next highest base for armor helms. And all of these these impaled corpses will also always drop martial weapons too. So if you're desperate, you can also go here for that. But on shield wall leveling, this is like the last time you'd like worry about getting a martial weapon. I'm just gonna use our whetstones on this studded great club before we get to Jamanra. And you don't have to worry about Asala here. You're fine to move on. So this is something that's specific to this Hani Gates layout, is that these statues here, I'm at 63%, give you about like 9 to 10% experience a level. So if you wanted to catch up all the way to level 20 here, this is a really good spot for it. Once you get the shield wall, that's going to be your like end game clear. Like you're just going to use shield wall the whole time. So close enough, we're going to hit 20 for sure.
I have no limitations.
Alright, so you can do like some pre-stacking on Jamanra here with certain classes and skills on the current patch. We're just going to place on Frostbound, walk in Infernal Cry, start charging our perfect strikes. You just have to be careful to not get like too knocked around by his attacks and hit your aim. You just dodge roll out of this first, this ability here, and then you want to stand in the circle to dodge the damage. It's a Arbiter style mechanic. Unfortunately, if you stun him before he is phased, you just lose a little bit of time when he's phased from that hit. And if you have a shield and you're tanky like me, just watch this bar down here. You just raise your shield and not worry about anything. If this bar filled up, I'd get heavy stunned, but that can never happen. They don't do enough damage. Right. On these stairs, whichever way a solo runs is the way that you need to go. And whenever you get the pop-up quest message right here, return to the caravan, you can start your portal and get out of here. Same deal as always, you know. Talk to the Hooded One. You ID at him if you had anything to ID. Check for shields, etc. You know, vendor. You have to get your level 7 skill gem from Zarka before you can really move on. And I make this a shield wall ahead of time just so I don't accidentally mess it up. And you don't have to talk to Asala here. So, there's a couple different ways you can path through Act 2. Typically what's done is you do, like, in the speedruns, you do Keth line first, into Mawdun Badlands for second, and then Valley of the Titans third. But there's some new pathing I like to do that ensures that you get a second level 7 gem. And there's two different options for it. For one option is that, so like zone level ups happen in, like, we want Keth to be a higher level zone, because when we enter Keth the first time, the encounter Kabbalah, the snake unique boss monster, she'll drop us a level. If we go there first, she drops a level 6 skill gem alongside the 2 weapon swap points. But if we go there in Kethline after killing like the Bone Pits bosses or the Valley of the Hidden boss, the Colossus, it'll be a level 7 gem. And if you go after killing both of those 2 bosses, it'll be a level 8 skill gem dropped. But if you just grab the Bone Pits waypoints, that'll end the Titan's Grotto waypoint. Like, you would just enter those 2 zones and then you go into Keth, it'll also drop a level 7 skill gem. What I like to do is I just like to go to Mawdun Badlands first and kill the boss there with Perfect Strike. Especially when I have a strong weapon like this, it'll be pretty fun. In Badlands, if you're worried about getting lost, just hug the wall. All the points of interest are alongside the wall, you know, including the well of Souls. You just hug the wall here. Just make sure you hug the wall all the way, because like a little tiny nook really can just be an entrance. This effigy is also pretty nice. It drops you a level 2 support gem. Honestly, I mean, if I could afford the dex. The next point will be a dex node just to swap this out, but it'll be nice to get the life and extra lightning res from this. And the next patch, when you play and Abyss League is like added core to the game, you'll be able to get the Well of Souls waypoint 3 here. You can just grab the first waypoint on the way when you're playing through campaign, and then go through the zone all the way. Whenever you get proper Abyss crafting gear, because Abysses will be more rare than 0.4, at least in the campaign. And we just continue hugging the wall, and we get to the Bone Pits here. So, whenever you're entering this zone, the boss arena can be found by just going straight out and then it's alongside the far wall of the, opposite of the entrance, but it'll be like somewhere over here, up or down a bit, usually. From what I understand, like the occurrences of abysses in the next league, they'll be like set to like specific zones starting in Act 2. So I have a feeling some of the good ones, like my guess would be that some of the good ones, including like the Buried Shrines one, will exist in the game because of the deterministic loot that always drops in that zone, being the Lesser Jeweler's Orb, would be my feeling, or my best bet. I could be entirely wrong, but that would be my guess. So, there is a quest item that you need to pick up that only drops from hyenas, and it's one of the relics. So, you're gonna have to typically spend some time in here just farming hyenas for relics, because they don't like to drop them a lot of the time. And it's the only zone where a relic or like a quest item that has to drop randomly from monsters only has one zone where it can drop in. Like Goliath's Heart has 2 zones that it can drop in. The relic for the snakes and Keth and Lost City have 2 zones that it can drop in. The only other zone that hyenas show up in is in Vastiri Outskirts, and they're not able to drop from there, unfortunately. Because we have a higher level Frost Bomb, we're still getting some use out of it for single target, because it can apply to monsters of level, 25 and below. Let me just kill the boss real quick here. So what I'm gonna do here is, this is the caster guy. These are the ones that are gonna despawn when the boss fights start. So to position myself at the start of the fight, I'm gonna stand behind him. I'm gonna Frost Bomb preemptively before he's targetable, and then I'm gonna Infernal Cry when both these bosses are up, so I can get 4 stacks of Infernal Cry, 2 for each unique monster. And then if I wanted to, I could also time one ahead of time. Just stand slightly to the side of the charge, hope it doesn't stun you. If it does, you just eat it. It is what it is. You just charge in their face. So, unfortunately, we're going to need to respawn at checkpoint to reset the monsters. And we're going to need to do some farming here. We need to kill some hyenas. So, we're just trying to run from pack of hyenas to pack of hyenas to get the relic. Yeah. Thankfully, we don't do enough damage on Perfect Strike yet, so we are getting a average 10% damage buff next match, which will be nice. We end up spending time in the zone farming. It is what it is. So, this barricade shield is base armor 50, which is almost as good as my shield. It's also at a level breakdown that makes it possible to be better than this, because I believe it's like level 16 for the next armor mod. In this case, we did get a pretty good shield. Having like a shield that's like 60 armor is really good for your first shield. Having one that's 90 is really nice. So this will feel really good when we swap over to shield wall a little bit. Alright, so we got our Sunclan relic, so I'm just going to respawn a checkpoint and portal out. Typical Irish Town stuff. Sell this. We only look at shields from now on, because we don't care about weapons, aside from one-handed maces if you still needed melee skills. In my case, I don't. And there's no plus melee gloves or like the good resistances yet, but they can't really spawn in yet. Okay. So we turn on Tusk, get a level 2. You could double check for like increased amount recovered flask on life. That'd be really good. And it's really important that you get your grand mana flask by now. Otherwise, you're really gonna start feeling it as you enter this section of the game where you're gonna be using shield charge or shield wall. So I'm gonna do the respec now. It costs at level 21. It costs 290 gold for 5 points. So you know at this point you need to have saved up 1450 gold to do the respec. Just gonna apply all this at once. We're just gonna pick up Crushing Verdict because we're no longer gonna be using pure two-handed weapons, and then we're gonna start putting points in towards Blood Rush. And after that, we can go pick up some, like, either we can pick up the Exerted Attack, Empowered Attacks deal extra damage nodes, Empowered Attacks, or we can pick up armor nodes right away just so we're tankier. Depends on your preference. Level 6, upgrade Infernal Cry does slightly more damage as you put levels into it, and grants some extra damage.
This barren place holds an essence of
Keth, also, believe it or not, one of the best ways you can run this zone, just hug a wall. I like killing rares with Bone Shatter, so if I can guide them into it, I will. Especially, essences. They create the pretty good situation for us. So, I'm gonna do the switch to shield wall right now. If you ever want to do, like, take time to do this and you don't want to do it on the run, you can just open up your passive skill tree and then open up your inventory and your skill gems. So you can do it all over here. And take our weapon out, just put everything in weapon set 1 for now. This is all stuff you can do ahead of time. You don't have to do it in this late, like a lot of this prep at least. So we're gonna drop Perfect Strike. The only thing we're keeping here is our Conk Effect gem. We'll put that below where our shield wall is gonna go in shield charge, or above it. It doesn't really matter. You just want it in line with magnified effect, so when you're swapping it out, it's a lot easier for you to do it quickly. Rolling Slam we won't need. Fire Attunement we're gonna need later on when we get a 4-link for shield wall. Impact Shockwave and Bone Shatter we don't need. We're gonna keep Infernal Cry, Herald of Ash, Shockwave Totem we do. Shockwave Totem, you want to have urgent orders in. It'll make it playing the build a lot nicer. You can put them on like any keys that you prefer personally. This is just the setup that I'm used to with my keys, my abilities. And then also on Shockwave Totem, I'm just gonna put it for a long duration because it's nice to have it. But all these gems, we don't need them anymore, so I just drop them on the ground. Alright, we already got our Kabbalah Clan Relic, which is pretty sick. So, as I said earlier, you use different skills to break it depending on what you need. If you need slightly more damage to clear in one go, you can use like end up using your Infernal Cry for the extra damage boost. And then you switch in Conk Effects for a single target.
need mana. No lock is unbreakable.
Here we're gonna want more attacks. And as you can see, it is pretty mana intensive. Just every time I press it, my mana pool drops by a fair margin. This is one of the best maces you could ask for later on for like sleep slamming around early on in campaign. Just high attack speed on a slim mace. So we're gonna keep that on our offhand for now as an option. because you can do some fun things with weapon set points. Like we're gonna set this preemptively to only work with weapon set 1 on our shield wall. Because later on we're gonna be wanting to do that with specific nodes for fortifying cry. And this room's pretty nice. This is a guaranteed magic amulet room. Some little bit of gold and a blue pack. In this case, we happen to get potentially a pretty good amulet here. It's strength. World life, yeah. Oh well, it's worth a lot of gold. And an Americath Curious. This is pretty sick. Life, resistance, higher armor. I'm just gonna keep it long, hugging the end of the zone. Something to note is that this section of the zone where there's brick on the ground is not a section where a Kabbalah will spawn. She'll have to be in the section of the zone, the first like 2/3 of the zone where the ground is sand. So she's up over here. Just put a Conquefact and shield wall. Put down our totem. Let me just Infernal Cry on cooldown. Yeah, she's also one of the bosses where if you're trying to perfect strike her there, you'd want to aim for where she got knocked down from. Just hop on out of here whenever this happens. Alright, and we get our level 7 skill gem from her, which is pretty sick, so we can also leap slam. And then we can just checkpoint back over to here and continue on along the zones. This is a really insane flask, so if this happened to roll increased amount recovered here, this 14% increased life flask would have been, I mean, this is already good enough for most of Act 3 as a flask on warrior builds. Essence says you just place your totem down ahead of time. So the way this zone works here in Lost City is that there's two main sections that are connected by a bridge on either the far right or the far left of the end of the first section. And then the exit is anywhere along that like farthest wall, from farthest left corner to farthest right corner along this angle. Just like whatever angle it comes out at. You just keep on going straight until you hit the edge of the first zone. There may be more specific tells than that, but I'm not aware of any. And just like make sure that every time you like clear a boss that you put back your magnified effect or magnified area back into your gem, because the clearing without it feels really bad. And it can bait you into thinking your damage is worse. Just without hits. Right. Just gonna put that in real quick. And I like to go for vocal empowerment first. I like the extra damage. Right, and so something you can do is when you get more access to more rapid attacks, you can just slot them into things like your shield charge or into your leap slam as you get them. So just remember what I said about your leap slam. You want to do either a dodge roll out of your leap slam, or in your the end of your leap slam you want to make sure you hit a raise shield if you want to do an attack right away. And just something to note is when you're going through zones, this might be a habit some people have from Path of Exile 1, but whenever you're leap slamming, you want to make sure that, like, I play for speedrunning. For this, I play windowed, and I'll put my mouse out of my screen when I press. This only works if you have your leap slam not on your mouse button. But I'll press Q off screen, like out of my window, just so I can't get name locked on monsters. Because when you press on a monster and you're name locked on them, even if you could like go further, it'll end up targeting you towards the monster instead of like past it. And then I have to put my mouse back into the window for the raise shield ending. But to do that, I have to play winded mode. There are like a couple encounters in here, and one of them's mostly just like the spirit gem, and the other's the beetle. Beetle's pretty nice because it's your only like guaranteed source of a jewel early on. If I don't see it, I don't really worry too much about it because odds are pretty low it's too useful. Um, Honestly, in doing the Keth quest line, it's like unless you're like really rationing your like speed, it's fine to just do it back here and sell your stuff for gold because your inventory is gonna be full basically every time. Unless you're like really worried about your time. You know, good time to check for flasks. Giant mana flask is really good compared. Just make sure you hit the well. And I'm just gonna put on my good giant flask with the 14% quality. Right. So, in buried shrines, there's like two main ways. There's like two real possible locations for the ring. There's 8 different layouts, but with like the variation between them. Uh, there's going to be 2 main sections. They're both in rectangles, and they're facing towards the northeast. So like that, the long end of the rectangle will be towards the northeast, and the short end of the rectangle for the most part would be towards, this side right here. But the broad section of it's over here, because the exit is always going to be in the second section alongside the northeast. And all 8 layouts that exist. What I like to do is I like to loop around the start, and I just hug this wall here, and I'm looking for the elemental offering room. That gives you a guaranteed resistance ring of your choice. You can pick a sapphire, you can pick a ruby, you can pick a topaz, whichever you prefer. It's really lucky that we got a level 7 gem here, because what we can do is we can take a mark and just equip it. Freezing mark is going to be buffed next patch in certain ways. But you can either do like a voltaic mark, or you can do like a freezing mark. It doesn't really matter. The like mark you use is less important than the effect that you get from using mark for death on single target. You get an additional level 7. I mean, you can just from here you can just level up your totem so it has extra HP, or just not level it up so it stays like at a lower mana cost. I mean, so I don't have. I have a preference for fire resistance and lightning resistance in campaign over cold resistance, especially since I plan on taking Smith later on. I'm going to take the Ruby Ring. It's going to be pretty good for what I want later on. And I also happen to have Essences of Thawing, so I can just use one early. I have pretty good resistances across the board now. I'd say that's pretty nice to have. I'm just going to continue along here. So we don't have to hug the wall anymore, since we know that the ring cannot be up over here. We're just going to make sure we don't miss a fast exit. It's a little too loopy for me. Nice thing about playing this is that you always have shield up, so you already always get like the extra armor from your shield, which is pretty nice. We have 400 armor total. I do happen to have, I did a Act 1 run the other day. I put that on. So something to note about Shield Wall, effect on it is pretty nice. This is 10% more damage for every like GCP you use on it is 10% more damage if destroyed by your skills, which is pretty sick. This guy doesn't do anything until you start attacking him. So you're just gonna place down your totem and start attacking him for free. Just pressing Infernal Cry whenever it runs out, and same thing for replacing your totem if it dies or expires. So he takes a little while. This was with magnified effect in, so I could have been doing even more damage. All these vases, these like urns around the water goddess, have like slightly increased rarity compared to like typical urns. From my experiences, they tend to be like slighted in your favor.
I shall grant you mercy.
And while she burns, you grab your loot. Silver charms are pretty nice. I like using them over any sort of like charm. Will be the first thing I put on.
I've changed my mind.
Sim typical routine. It's worth it if you've leveled up to always double check for an armor shield, and like leech, for example, is a really impactful stat. I'm gonna keep it here, just in my inventory, over here, just in case I don't get leech later on and I feel the need for it. But you see, nothing else really important over here. Just gonna sell off the rest of this. Head on over to Valley of the Titans. So, Valley of the Titans is, in the speedrunning sense, a solved zone. There's 12 different layouts, and the main tell that we use is both the like orientation of the entrance. This is like a southward facing zone, but it's either south facing or north facing. So it's divided up into 6 and 6, north and south. And then it's further divided up into either long entrances or short entrances. And then there's some like key like tell that helps me determine which one exactly it is, in a way that makes sense. So this is a short entrance one, and I call this one early crossing southwest. So in my notes I have that in this zone, the first seal is directly north of the grotto, so we're gonna go up there. This zone was solved in the lead up to the 0.3 race season cycle by Lundberger, if I remember correctly. This could also be Southwest Hook, but in this case, you go directly east. In this case, we're going directly north. And we're gonna follow the outside wall, southwest. The second seal. Southwest. Oh, sorry. This is southeast hook, but the way you solve all these zones is you go north anyways. So we're gonna go northeast, and then we're just hugging outside wall. My bad. The like nuance of this zone only like matters. The way you tell is you go north, but by the time you go north, you can't fuck it up. So this first hole is going to be an ancient seal. In the speedrun sense, the next hole to the outside is going to be the waypoint. Normally you'd skip that in a speedrun, but in a league start you want to get the buff, even if it's just one charm slot. And unlike other layouts, Valley of the Titans is unique. I grabbed the increased charm charges because it doesn't rotate. The zones don't rotate and they don't get mirrored, so it's truly only 12 different zones across every league. It's pretty static, which is pretty sick. I was hoping that would break them. Then we just continue along the outside. And whenever you get this third one, you want to checkpoint back right away, even if you have stuff to kill, because this animation will only start when you head away from it. So you'd still have to wait it out over here. You just went right away. Rabbit Tax 2 is at level 4. Alright, so Valley of the Titan in the leads to the Titan Grotto, and in here there's like 2 different sections. There's 2 like parallel bridges that lead to this second section where the boss arena can be found from. I don't really have a tell in this zone, I just hug around the outside of the wall and try to vibe it out. You know, if you see the waypoint, you're headed on the right path. Like here. Yeah, sometimes there's a cool little skip jump like that with leap slam, but typically not. Usually it's just teasing you. In this case, it led us directly to the boss arena, which is pretty cool. I'm going to switch into Conk Effect right away. The cool thing about this boss, for like fighting him, is that there's like a cheesy spot right here. So if you notice, his hitbox is already here, and it's blocking me as he's like coming into the arena from standing there. But if you position yourself into this armpit of his, for us it's on the left side, it's his right armpit. Basically none of his attacks can hit you. So you can just do any of your damaging abilities for free and not worry about getting hit. The only thing you have to worry about is his minions. The like suicide bomb cold minions. Because those do a lot of damage, they can kill you and freeze you right away. Holy sushi, dude. Thank you for the raid. Appreciate it. But yeah, that's the armpit cheater spot. While his loot's dropping, you just portal out. Grab his shit and leave. Yeah, typical vendor check, just checking shields. Our shield's already pretty good, so I'm not too worried about it. Sushi wide. Get another level 2 support gem, grab the horn. Stare into the abyss. Or, you know, at the slaves that the Mariketh use. Or the Eslamites. I don't know lore. So in the Shard is where we're gonna get our lab point. So I'm gonna spend the gold to get freezing mark for death for single target in the future. I'm just gonna do it now before I forget. In this case, you know, I'm just gonna convert these 2 strength points over here into dex, so I have enough dex to use freezing mark. I'll do our armor break for us for single target damage in the future.
This is a graveyard unlike any other.
Alright, so in the beginning part of the zone, before it opens up to the big buildings, there is a guaranteed artificial orb drop that is either on the far left side or on the far right side. You just kind of have to hope you find it right away. But I'll note there's like a certain way that the path generates forward that is very noticeable, where like if you fit that, you know you've gone too far for at least the artificial orb. So right up here, if you keep going, you've gone too far. It's like as you starts to like open up over here, the second you see like any building start to generate, you've gone too far for at least for the artificer orb reward. So you know that if you would want it, you'd have to turn back for it right now. Fortunately, there's no checkpoint there, so it can be like a time waster. And like a speedrun sense, you wouldn't always go for it, but in a typical playthrough, you would. It's pretty nice. Just gonna be up against this wall right here. What's up, Dead Rabbit? Drops an artificial orb, which is pretty sick, because we only have artificial orbs in this run from guaranteed drops in the campaign. Don't actually have any natural drops ourselves. This is kind of why it can be advisable, if you don't mind spending the time to do it, to like collect double-socketed items or like high quality items early on in campaign and stockpile them. So, as far as I know, corpse spawning is kind of random in this zone. Maybe there's some sort of set pattern, but I don't know about it. But the corpse will always spawn at the southeast location right here, about like 4 o'clock on each of the buildings that are like this, these big buildings here. So I always run along the south side of the zone, so I can check the south side of the buildings easier. And then I just pray she happens to be on path. Now if I get a situation like this, I'll like run up, see if there's a building there. If there's a building, I'll check the south again, and just continue running along the side. But when you want to ascend, there is, instead of doing a level 22 trial, we're going to do a level 28 trial, because there's a guaranteed level 28 trial from the twin birds in this zone. There's like, or vultures, I suppose. So we're also looking for that encounter, which spawns alongside the edge of this zone anyways. So these like lamps around this building are a unique like indicator of this building being the exit and not just some other random building outside of the checkpoint. This like terrain right here, these like structures are unique and the lamps are unique to this one building. When you get the checkpoint and you haven't gotten the corpse or the Dashar birds, you just grab the checkpoint and continue all along throughout the zone, because you can just checkpoint back over later. You don't have to grab the waypoint to the next zone. Just keep running along the zone, checking buildings as we go across. So this gap right here, it is entirely jumpable in one go, but you have to be right up against the edge of it. Otherwise you're gonna miss. So I'm just gonna keep going until I get the corpse, and then I'm gonna turn back around and fight those birds. I'm gonna put conk effect. Oh, we already had conk effect in. Whoops. Hey, you don't want to do that. So instead of just spawning both these birds at the same time, if you just hug one wall and then like edge your way in, you can fight only one of them at a time instead of fighting both of them.
I'm not ready.
Alright, and then this level 28 Jin Barrier, the area level, is a 100% guaranteed drop. It'll always happen. After this, we're just going to continue along.
I pray I'm not too late.
You don't have to grab this waypoint checkpoint. This zone doesn't really have any monsters in it anyways, so you're never going to really return. There's like one somewhat interesting encounter in this zone that can occur, and it drops you a level 2 support gem. It looks like so like this zone, Path of Mourning, there's like two typical layouts. There's one that like kind of curves around, either up or down, or like it's more of like a C shape. This one, it looks like it's a typical 3-3-3 layout. And by 3, I mean like 1, 2, 3 over here, and then you have to go 3 more. In this case, this is where the unique encounter is. So, you know, all these spots drop like a rare item because they're like a rare chest. We're trying not to get like magic steel or a rare steel plate. We're looking for like a white steel plate right now. And then this will also like start the monsters and give us a level 2 support gem. But really not interested in fighting them. This stone isn't that great anyways. In terms of density, you know, you get like a lot of monsters like this, you'll kill them, whatever, fine. It's not that interesting. If I recall right, you should be able to make this leap, yep, in that very corner. So you have 3 right here. 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3 over here. And then ideally we'd go back down a bit whenever we get the next opportunity. Or we can just keep going in this case. Because that's just how it happened to work out. Okay, so Mana Leech is actually one of the best stats in the game on this build because it's very mana hungry, so I'm going to put that on right away. It has Radi on it, which is really nice, but I would put this on solely for the Mana Leech because this build is very mana heavy. You can deal with your life pool by just not getting hit, but the mana is very important. So there is like an algorithm to run out through the stone. At some point I'll post a video about it to make it more clear, but basically there's like set locations where the Sisters of Deshar can actually spawn in the first place, and then when we get there, there's a very specific formation that it has to be able to spawn in that can help you like eliminate sections of the zone a bit faster, so you don't have to like look through all of it. So we're just checking down here real quick. We know it can't spawn over here because there's no passage. We're gonna check up here. Now you know it can't spawn around here at all, because there's no room for it to, the shape that it needs to be in. Monsters in the zone can be like a little bit dangerous if you don't have high armor, or if you don't have a shield, you don't have like lots of clear, but for us it's really not a problem. I like to just like leap into the packs. You just instantly kill them. Alright, so what I'm talking about with the shape is that this like encounter right here, this that grants us lightning resistance, it has to spawn in this like a G shape with these 4 islands. So like it will all these like 4 will all, or like these 4 mini towers and then this bigger tower will always spawn in this formation. It'll always be like this, we call it a G shape in speedrunning. It'll always be connected here, never connected here, never connected here, always connected to the right and bottom. So it has to spawn in this like shape. So that's how you can like help eliminate large portions, and then there's an algorithm and like a solution that includes like where it's possible for it to spawn. For the most part, you're just like looking for these like 4 islands, so that's why I was able to eliminate this area after seeing it wasn't here, you know, seeing that was just a small thing over here. You can also like leap in between these like passageways over here. I know it's pretty tough for us, for y'all gamers, but you do need to find the G spot in this layout. And then the boss arena is just on like the far end of the zone. Since we're playing a bit more casually, we're just gonna go sell all of our items for gold real quick. So we're starting to get to that level where there could be like pretty good items for us in the shop if we get lucky. But no good resistance items. Neither do we have good rings. Here's also like a good time to like start looking for a white chest piece, so we can go to Smith right away. It can be a little unfortunate sometimes. It can be a little bit harder than you'd think to get it. Alright, so just make sure to switch into Conk Effect if you don't already have it in. I could have turned in the letter. In normal cases, I wouldn't like back until after this boss is dead, though. We're just gonna mark him, break his armor, and just spin shield wall on a totem. If he does his poison, you know, I'm just gonna move my totem over. Infernal Crown cooldown. Just refresh the mark every once in a while, so he stays fully armor broken. You know, only a true mechanical master can beat this boss. If you happen to get it like a Lesser Jeweler's Orb early on, you put it on shield wall and you sock it in your fire attunement. You just make sure you put your magnified area back in.
My wares are renowned.
This is pretty nice life leech. I would hold on to this just in case, because it has resistances on it. Just in case I get a life leech or mana leech on a ring, and swap. Like if I happen to get mana leech on a ring, I can swap this in, which would be pretty sick. Otherwise, you know, everything gets sold. I always sell only for gold unless I'm very desperate to get regals, and I'm not desperate to get regals right now, thankfully. And then, you know, just make sure you turn in your letter so you get your 2 weapon swap points. And in this case, I'm going to start going for polished iron because it's nice to have extra armor. And the sun threshold's pretty sick. So instead of heading straight to the dreadnought, we're going to do our trial now.
I will show them how a true warrior fights.
Sprint on over here. So even though we didn't kill Balbala the first time, what's going to happen here is because we have a Jamanra already, is that she's going to give us one. Or can give us a relic. So we have the questline one, just in case you fail the level 28 one, you're still going to be able to do it. Yeah, you'll get like worse loot because it's not area level 28, but you know, if you're gonna fuck up, at least you have a failsafe.
This place is ancient, yet something stirs.
I'm just gonna slot in Conk Effect because we're killing rares for the most part in here. Level 28, you know, you level up your shield wall gem. You just kill rares as they spawn in, of course. I like to pick up some sacred water along the way, but it doesn't really matter too much. It'll be fine. Alright, so things that I look for not ever to do is stuff like worn sandals, like bad afflictions, feel really bad. I don't really care about not seeing one further ahead compared to having no armor. And, you know, it is what it is. 30% less movement speed. Chalices are pretty sick. They're pretty fast because you just gotta kill one monster, 2 rare monsters, and shield wall does a lot of single target damage. These like big fireball attacks really can hurt, and when you're playing in a party, they can actually like not be spawned in correctly, or if someone like spawns them off screen of you. And it is important to note, and that in your early like Sekima trial, that it is really important to pick up seal relics, just so you'll have relics for your third floor one run. Unless you've decided that you want to do Trial of Chaos. We're just gonna do an escape trial. Those are pretty sick. The only thing I'd click here other than these things are like a rare chest for like a chance of relics. If you're running in a party, you know, you just want everybody to run together because it's really easy to take a lot of extra damage from like someone spawning in monsters in an escape trial. It only matters if you're like leveling with people though. Holy projectiles. Alright, I'm gonna do Chalice over Gauntlet any day of the week because rare monsters are nice. Yeah, thank you so live for the T1 for 1 month. I appreciated it.
This could forge something truly exceptional.
No, for speedrunning you don't use disengage anymore. No one uses spears in speedrunning after 0.2 meta was nerfed, with Stomping Grounds being scaling with auto default attack damage or something like that. It's not really used anymore. It's not too useful. Right, so I'll always take Gauntlet over 25% less max honor, to be honest. Yeah, you just don't get hit and you sprint. So it is worth noting that when you're shield charging, your shield counts as being raised for all these traps. You can just dodge roll under them as well.
Rest a while.
Alright, so I'm just gonna see one additional room ahead again. Just do my undo the affliction I had earlier, basically, and then I'll just restore my honor, because why not? There's nothing else you can really buy from her. I mean, like, you can save your Sacred Water for the end of the run, but whatever. Taking Hardcore and A4. 0.4, you probably do Isle of Kin. Grab the waypoint inside. You do Isle of Kin for the Greater Rune, guaranteed. And the level 4 support gem you get from the rare monster in that zone. And then from there, you go to the Delirium guy, and then the order doesn't matter for the rest, because you get +2 levels at the Delirium guy. Escape Shrine that restores honor and grants a boon is pretty sick, and it's on Escape Trial, which is the best. Yeah, can even I open up these like magic chests and try to get better relics. Honor resistance is very important later on. I just remember the rare chest we saw over here. Get up now. They're also like a good source of keys in general. And we do have level 28 bases available in this trial because it is a level 28 zone, which is pretty sick. I would take the map pieces. I've heard the expedition's pretty good, and you can just reset the instance to farm like a good start. Holy! Upon reaching 0 honor, revive? Impossible to fail.
The foe ahead is formidable.
So, if you have like decent fire resistance, I don't even think I'd bother moving. But I don't. Other than that, I'm just gonna face tank him and kill him. Alright, we got more relics. Relics aren't really useful early on, so we're just gonna stash them all over here. You can check for like a really good relic, like 3 movement speed. Yeah, I'm taking that. 3 movement speed, 8 quant, that's a pretty sick relic. I'll save that for later. Oh, I'll roll the jade just in case it's something good, but it's probably not gonna be. Oh, give me a gold key. Yeah, you open all these up. Yeah, maybe this is good. Otherwise, 17% is pretty sick. And we have 2. In this case, I just go for double relics. Just make sure you do your ascension. I play hardcore. Some options you have, so I'm gonna do Smith start. What you can do with Warbringer is you can go early on. You can just like you're gonna end up with like the ignoring Warcry cooldowns node anyways when you hit 31 with Fortifying Cry. So you go for like Warcaller's Bellow and just do this right away. I like Smith's is pretty sick because when you ascend next batch, you're gonna get 400 armor for taking Smith's Masterwork in 2 points, and I end up taking 75% fire resistance, and then the Molten Symbol, Tantalum Alloy with Molten Symbol, so your capped fire resistance, and then 25% of his damage is taken as fire damage instead, which is pretty sick. I'm gonna send Smith Octava, of course. Tamagotchi Blacksmith. And then we portal out. So, same deal as always. We got a steel plate, white steel plate, which is pretty sick. So we can go right away, spend our points. So we take Smith's Masterwork, Tantalum Alloy, and Molten Symbol. So now we're very strong against physical damage.
No need to rush. Alright.
And then we're just gonna scrap this because it's 17% armor. Checking for resistances or good life rolls with our Regex here. We didn't happen to get anything though. And now's a good time to just buy 1,000 gold worth of wisdoms. So something you can do with rings that are decent level is that you can take magic ones and throw an alchemy orb on them to see if you can get something better for your money. This one's pretty good. I'll take that over the other topaz any day. Just store that in there for now. It's like the right item level to possibly roll leech mods. And then we just continue along to Dreadnought. It's a 50% of armor applies to elemental damage.
Ready yourself. We must prevail, no matter what.
I will end this.
Yeah, going the Warbringer route is entirely fine. Playing hardcore or HDSSF in general, I would just recommend doing Smith. And make sure you have your magnified area out when you leave trial. because it feels really miserable in Dreadnought to not have it. And that feels really nice, you know?
Feel my wrath.
And whenever flasks of the next tier drop for you, of the one that you'd, if you don't have that one already, you want to grab it immediately. Because even though I have 14% quality on this Giant's Flask, the Colossal Flask is already more life regen than that. Yeah, for all these extra levels, it's just like Shockwave Totem, you know? The totem gets like slightly better for it. It doesn't really do much for you, so you don't really have to put levels in it when you have extra skill gems. But the amount of I've had this run is pretty atypical. Usually have a bit less. So we pick up Polished Iron at level 28 here. We already have 700 armor before the patch goes through. On next patch, Sturdy Metal should be a lot better as well for Smith. So the 200 armor you get for each of the points that you have selected. If you make it to late game gearing, you probably switch to Titan anyways. It's just really hard to beat Hulking form in general. Hulking form's really good. You know, you just slam from platform to platform, place your totem, place your shield walls, Infernal Cry if you have to, shield charge if you have to break them, you know. You can also leap slam, because any slam will break your shield walls. Yeah, I think point for point, the Smith like body armor points are just like pound for pound. They're some of the most insane nodes that you can get in the game. Just at early game, the amount of strength they have. So, if you're like around 28, 29 on the XP curve, you're doing pretty good here. You'd prefer to be closer towards 29 than 28 side of things, and even better if you're like closing in on level 30. It's perfectly fine to do like 2 runs of like Dreadnought Vanguard to get the extra levels. If you need them. The 29 is pretty good for the XP curve, so long you kill a lot in the zones afterwards, or a decent bit. If you ever feel like you're lacking in damage before you get to Jamanra, I would just like reset the zone and run another Vanguard.
You again. The fool under the hooded one's sway.
lesser at
What are you
bay.
doing?
Time for this. Sands, bend to my will. Impede my endeavors.
Oh, I didn't mute. So what happens is that how long? I hope I wasn't muted long. So on this boss, when you face him going into phase 2, you exit to character select, and then you log right back in, and you're both standing up, and he stops his regeneration. This also works on Tavakai. Don't tell Zaki. You know, this phase is pretty easy. You kind of just stand still and pot. Unless you have like really abysmal damage for some reason, this fight's very, very easy. And if you don't have any lightning resistances, you probably need to dodge a little bit, but it doesn't really matter.
This is not over. Not yet.
Yes, this is stronger than Perfect Strike
I return you.
by quite a bit. Because the thing about Perfect Strike is you need a channel for 3 seconds, and you can get stunned out of it and do 0 damage in that time frame, when you could have just been doing more damage anyways with shield wall. When you get out of this boss, you know, you can do your vendoring, of course, you know. Oh, I have quality gear, I need to scrap it, I need a vendor, whatever. No. Sin's not here to click, so we double check for resistance gear. We already have our white chest piece, which is pretty sick. I don't really like putting any like investment into the chest piece until much later on. I just, whatever the next base is for white chest pieces, I just pick it up and put it on. I tried to keep sockets out of it so I can keep upgrading it for the base armor. Alright, so when you kill Jamanra, you just gotta walk over here and you gotta go through like a couple iterations of lore. All I do here is I spam click until he does his transformation or reveals that he is actually Sin from Path of Exile 1. And the second we get this, I just, you know, you exit character select and you log back in, and you'll be in the middle of town instead of walking back. Because we're gamers, we hate walking.
I am happy now.
Alright, and then you just travel on over to Sandsweat Marsh over here.
Until then.
The beast has grown too powerful.
And you skip the lore. There's no lore in this video game.
I will tell your tale.
If you load really slow, you just walk. It is what it is. Yeah, that's Act 2 for you. You know, we're in a pretty good spot. We have +2 melee skill gems. We have an okay shield. This is starting to fall off, but you know, we're gonna be able to wait until we get the level 36 base shield because it's good enough. You know, our resistances are looking good. We're overcapped on fire resistance before Blackjaw fight, so we're gonna be capped entering Act 4. You know, Cold Rose is looking pretty decent. You just need it to be like positive. Anything above that's pretty sick in Act 3. Because Yutzal monks can freeze you, and then, you know, there's certain like boss abilities that do cold damage. If you have like negative cold res, you just get eaten alive. But so long you're positive, you're fine. And then lightning is like, you know, ideally you just have this as high as it can possibly be. I'll see you whenever I have a chance to record the Act 3 version of this episode. Well, thanks for watching. Make sure to catch me live on twitch.tv/ingormus. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.